The following live-streamed program is made possible by Atlanta Video Network, making your streams come true. It's time once again for another edition of Talk to Me. And now, here's Emmy himself, 8-time Emmy Award-winning journalist, Maynard Eaton.
Hello again, and welcome to Talk to Me. I'm Maynard Eaton, our weekly conversation with business, cultural, and political leaders. Today, we have one of the state's very best. He's the Dean of the House of Representatives. His name, of course, is Representative Calvin Smyre. Calvin Smyre, thank you for joining us, sir.
Thank you, Maynard, and I appreciate this opportunity, and it's always good to chat with you, and I've enjoyed doing it over the years, and I look forward to it today.
You just passed a hate crimes bill. You engineered a hate crime bill. The first one Georgia's had in more than 10 years without one. You called it the finest moment of your 46-year career. Was it that important? Why?
Well, I think it's important because Atlanta is often referred to the city too busy to hate. And when you think about the state of Georgia and being one of 4 states without a hate crime, and when you look at what's going on in America and what is happening not only in our state but across America, and seeing hate crimes that are committed, and Georgia not having a hate crime, to me, sends the wrong signal. And we have to say it in the loudest terms possible that we will not tolerate hate. And we will not tolerate hate in a criminal sense. So to me, that's was one of the defining moments when you think about it. And the fact of the matter, the state, Georgia is one of the 4 states in the United States without a hate crime. It's not a label that you want, nor is a label that you should want to have for your state. So that's why I call it a defining moment for the state of Georgia, and one of our finest moments, and as a legislature, because we did it in a fashion that often we don't do over here. It was done in a very bipartisan fashion in both the House and the Senate. It looked like we would not get there from time to time, but we did finally get there, and the results were very, very positive.
Now, was that your expert politicking, or was it the protesters outside that pushed that vote, you think?
Well, I think it's a little of both, and I always like to, it reminds me of my mentoring days with Reverend Hosea Williams, when he used to often tell me, young blood, it's not the beauty of the washing machine that cleans the clothes, it's the agitation. And that's what you think about, that all the demonstrations and the protesting and the advocating and the agitation certainly helped us internally. So external pressure is always good when you're involved in the legislative process, and I, for one, welcome that. I encourage people to participate politically and protesting otherwise, but just do it in a peaceful fashion. And we need that, and it was exhibited here in Atlanta and across the country. And I think the Ahmaud Arbery case was a very telling moment. To have that murder done in broad daylight and be caught on video, I think was one of the catalysts, because, man, if you followed this bill, we passed it March 1, 2019, and it sat for 400 some days in the Senate without a hearing, and was read only one time, and that shows you that no action was going to be taken. But once that Ahmaud Arbery was murdered in Brunswick, and it came to light and the video became public, then it put a dark cloud over Georgia. It put a dark cloud over the General Assembly of Georgia. And so we had no alternative but to act. But at some point in time, I didn't think we would act. But but a lot of discussion, a lot of behind the scenes talk, and this is something that I do. I enjoy complex, heavy lifting projects, and this is one that I had a chance to talk to a lot of the individuals at the higher levels of government here in the Capitol, and we were able to get it done.
What was your argument, Calvin? You're good. You're a civil rights activist yourself, longtime political leader in the state and the country. But what was your argument? What was your convincing spiel to some of your fellow legislators?
Well, first of all, Georgia's often stated that Georgia is the best state to do business in. And my message to the various business community representatives, both the Atlanta Chamber and the Georgia Chamber, if Georgia is the best state to do business in, then Georgia ought to have a hate crime bill. And they responded accordingly. And the Atlanta Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce, the Georgia Chamber of Commerce, you very seldom see them join hands together in a joint statement. But they joined hands in a joint statement, and we got them on board, and we got a lot of other business executives, small and large businesses, starting to write the members of the General Assembly, and that was my basic message that does Georgia want to continue to be known as one of the 4 states in the nation without a hate crime, and the environment that we're in, and with the George Floyd case in Minneapolis, and with the Breonna Taylor case in Kentucky, in Louisville, and then with Ahmaud Arbery in Georgia, and all of the others that the list of names that we could call. And so when I sat down with all the levers of power and the leadership here in our state, that was a part of my explanation and my speech to them in terms of where we are as a state and where do we want to go as a state, and we were and we had a lot of help, and I got a lot of help from the members of the Georgia Legislative Black Caucus, Representative Karen Bennett, and others, and I worked very, very well with Harold Jones in the state Senate, and he was on the point there, and he and I worked very closely together, and I had a chance to meet with all of the major principals, the governor, lieutenant governor, and the speaker. So having access to them it was helpful in this regard.
I like the word used, having access, because when we speak of leadership in the legislature, you are part of that. I mean, you're the state's leading Black political leader, are you not? After 40
No,
years, I mean,
I don't hold a position here at the Capitol. I've been involved in quite some time, and I knew that when this came about, when I was asked to join this effort, the members of the House leadership asked me to get involved, and I happened to be the number 2 signature on the bill. There was 6 signatures on the bill, 3 Republicans, 3 Democrats, Representative Karen Bennett and Representative Carla Drenner, with the other 2 Democrats, but there were 3 Republicans and 3 Democrats. And of course, the bill was handled by Chuck Estration, and I was given a lot of latitude in regards to negotiating, and was involved with the speaker and with the Democratic and Republican leadership. And I was given the green light to visit the state Senate, starting with the Lieutenant Governor and the Senate and Democratic leadership, and I met with them separately on several occasions in a spirit of diplomacy and negotiating and going back and forth between the House and Senate. That's something I've done over the years is bring the differences between the House and Senate together. So going back and forth in this instance, I was authorized to make the first offer to the Senate, and that started the process.
But that's not normal. I mean, aren't many folks have that kind of clout or influence? You've been the first black in Georgia named to the Democratic National Committee. You've been a floor leader, but also you have had a legacy there of political influence. You seeing that played out now? And what does this bill mean? Really, would it really make a difference, you think? Or is it just political posturing?
No, I think this is a resounding victory. This is a stake in the ground moment. This is a defining moment. This is a historical moment. But it's not a cure-all. It's not a panacea. It's not. It's something that we needed. It's something that we negotiated and got. And now, when the governor signs it, it'll be the law of the state of Georgia. But to me, this is a start. I think that we ought to continue on. I think I've been listening very intently to what people externally are saying, the people that are protesting and marching and advocating, and they want to see more policing reform and more action and more determination and more fairness and more equity in our criminal justice system. And I think we need to continue to fight for that. And I think this hate crime bill will lead us to that. I think that you'll see some policing reform studies done in the House and Senate over the interim prior to coming back in 2021. And I think you'll see some movement in citizen arrest law. You may see that before we leave here. We've been advocating for that. We're looking at stand your grounds and law and opening that back up and taking a look at that. So those are just three areas right there that I think the hate crime will lead to discussion on those three items alone. So I think this is the impetus. This is the start. This is something that gives us some leeway and some segue into some of the other areas that need some attention as well. And I listen very intently to a lot of the young people and that are out there that are protesting and I've been in several marches myself and several rallies, and the message is clear that they won't change, and they won't change in a very positive fashion. And we've got to cut out the prison pipeline. We've got to cut out the inequity in our criminal justice system, and we've got to create fairness, equitable fairness. And I'm looking forward to coming back in January 2021 and looking at those issues. We only have 1 day left in this legislative session, depending on when this may air. But so with that in mind, we know that the time is near, but it's on my political horizon, the activities that are being discussed in our communities.
What do you make of this era? You know the Hosea Williams and other civil rights lions of the SCLC and other NAACP and other groups back in the day. Is this a whole new era? Are we looking at something totally different, totally transformative? Is this the New Deal, if you will, for human and civil rights?
In my opinion, that's a transformation on the horizon of the political arena. That's my opinion. I think I just don't think this is something that just gonna go away like something on your windshield and the windshield wiper can just wash away. I think this is a telling moment in the history of our country, and I just hope that we can carry this enthusiasm into the voting booths. And if you look at what happened in the June primary, it may be an indication that the fire is lit up under a lot of people, and that the only people in America that set public policy are the elected officials. So you would be abdicating your responsibility if you were not advocating and being involved in the political process. And I think when I watched the mayors first press conference, and I saw those individuals that I have long admired, the Joe Beasleys of the world, T.I. and Killer Mike and the mayor, and those that spoke that night, Derek Bozeman. Those are people that I have worked with and I have watched over the years. And for them to stand up and speak of what should be done in our cities and our communities, that lets you know that that we need to do something, but do it in a fashion where it can be very, very productive. I want to go back to Reverend Lowery and Reverend Williams. When I got elected in 1974 and I came to Atlanta in 75 for my first legislative session, I sought out Reverend Lowery and Hosea Williams because I am a product of the civil rights movement.
Yeah.
It's because of them that people like me were elected. When I was elected, there were only 90 plus legislators, black legislators in America. Now there's 750. And there are thousands of other elected officials that stand on their shoulders of the civil rights leaders who helped with the Voting Rights Act and the other avenues that kept us involved and got us involved in the political process. And they used to tell me all the time, I can remind myself of the story that Hosea Williams told me once about when he was growing up. He was looking, when he go to see a ballpark, they were not allowed inside the ballpark. They looked at it through the fence. And they cut a hole in it and looked at it and watched the game with one eye closed and looked at it and looking at it through a knothole. And he said, young man, when you get involved in the political process, don't look at it as a knothole because you can only see the players and you can't see the managers, and that's control the ball game. So I try to look at politics not through a knothole, but to get inside of the political arena and be involved. And that's what my message is to all of the people that are out there advocating. Get inside of the political process. Don't look at it through a knothole, but get inside where the political levers are. Be involved in the political process. Be involved in the voting and being engaged with your elected officials. So that's my advice to all those that are out there that are serving as our tourniquet. They are serving as our agitators and our advocators, because I believe in very strongly that external pressure is always appropriate when you're trying to legislate internally.
Representative Smyre, so you're suggesting to those on the Capitol steps and our City Hall steps to come on inside and make a difference there too?
I say that run for office, participate in the political process. I just feel that there is a synergy that is out there, and I just don't think it's going to go away. I strongly believe that, and I just think that we have to turn. There has to be a takeaway. We just cannot allow lives to die in vain, and that's why here in Georgia, and I've heard, I saw the quote of Ahmaud Arbery's mother stating that she's just so happy to see us pass this hate crime bill because she had a feeling that her son might have died in vain. But seeing this passed and seeing her comments through the NAACP in a statement last few days ago were very telling to me. And I'm when I think about that, I think about the fact that it took that sort of horrendous act to occur for us to move here in the state capitol.
But Representative Smyre, this hate crimes bill that you helped engineer and lobby for, it adds to your legendary body of work. I mean, you're the man responsible for the King holiday here in the state. You're the man. You're the man who helped get the King statue out there on the steps. One of the last time I doing a story with you. That was a proud moment for you too. So
you remember in my one of my old sayings that if you ever see a turtle sitting on a fence post, you know the turtle didn't get there by himself. Somebody helped put him there. So when you see the accomplishments, it was just not me doing it. On all of those things you talked about, the King statue, I remember my friend, still friend, Representative Tyrone Brooks, was the ones that brought that to fruition, and he passed it off to me, and then I can remember back in 2000 when I was in Los Angeles, and Governor Barnes called me and said, when we get back to Atlanta, we changing the state flag. And when he did that, Hosea was not here, but Tyrone and Hosea introduced the bill for maybe 15 years. And then when Joe Frank Harris became governor, I became the first African American floor leader to the governor. And when we went outside to change the old flag out to the new flag, Governor Barnes took us out to the flag and lowered one and put the other one up. So when you start talking about things of that nature, and the same thing with the birthday bill. I'm sorry that Tyrone and Jose introduced the birthday bill, the King holiday, and when Joe Frank became governor on that regard, uh, um, uh, I was the floor leader to the governor, and I introduced the bill on behalf of Joe Frank Harris, but Representative Brooks was the number two signature on that bill. So a lot of people have been involved with me, and as I said, on the hate crime, myself and Representative Estration, the chair of the Judiciary Committee, received a lot of accolades as it relates to the bill. But I took the will of the House today, and I thank those members that were other co-signers on the bill. And I acknowledge there, and the House gave them acknowledgments and applause, because I believe in that, and always I believe in the fact that you plant seeds for the trees, for the shade you may never see. And so when in all my approaches and all things that I do, I try to bring everybody along and give credit where credit is due. Although I'm on the point a lot on a lot of these issues, but you just don't get that by yourself. So I want to acknowledge all the people that always have been the wind at my back, and who've been helpful and instrumental in me and all of these. Over the years I've been in many situations here at the state capitol, and my having been chair of the party and chair of the House Democratic Caucus and chair of the Rules Committee, a governor's floor leader. Um, my I've been given a lot of responsibilities here, and but in order to do that, you got to have people that will follow your leadership, and I can truly say that I've been blessed and honored in that regard, that I've been able to coalesce and form coalitions here at the Capitol.
But you gotta have thick skin too, because I know Representative Smyre, you've been criticized in the past too, but you bounce back or work around it. I mean,
Yep.
you have a heck of a reputation, but it's not like you've not gotten any hits.
Oh yeah, I believe in. We can talk about that. You got that right. But anytime you take a leadership role, you gotta be ready for that. It's one thing that I strongly believe in, man. And it's one word. It's called tolerance.
Uh-huh.
And you gotta have a lot of tolerance in serving in general, especially serving a leadership position, because others' opinions matter as well. And a lot of our legislators have a tendency to take a position and will not move off of it, and that does not bode well in the legislative process. It's a very deliberative body, and now if you just want to make first downs, you can do that. But if you want to get touchdowns, you can't do that. So I'm not into first downs. I'm into touchdowns. And but in order for you to get a touchdown, though, you have to get first downs. So simplistically, that's how I look at the process, and like I said, we all get criticized, and that that doesn't bother me. Anytime you touch as many issues that I've touched, you're going to get that. But criticize me. But all the thing I ask respect. That's all I'm asking for is respect, and let's try to work together. And as I tell anybody, I've served in many Democratic leadership positions. I'm a Democrat, but at the same time, the notion is that from time to time, especially in the environment we're in order for you to score, you got to have. I mean, there's no way we could have done this bill, this kind of heavy lifting, without it being bipartisan. And the Senate almost got off track. They almost got off track. When we made the first offer to them, we wanted to accept the data center. That was the main nucleus of their bill, that we would have a registrar in Georgia for hate crimes. And but the exchange was that we'd have to use House Bill 426. They would get ready to use another vehicle because they wanted their own hate crime number. But America knew what 426 was. HB with petitions, with all kind of articles. Everybody knew that was the hate crime bill 426. In exchange, that's how we finally got to stay on 426. It's a small something that you offer up. And once we offered that up, then they agreed and called me and told me that relate to the speaker that House Bill 426 is going to be the number. And then we started going back and forth on what would be the contents. And the first thing that came out of the chute, the Democrats voted against it. And I informed the Senate leadership that with the Senate Democrats voting no, then that's not bipartisanship. We can't, and they promised us that we would do it like we did in the House with a bipartisan bill. So they withdrew that proposal and went back to the drawing board. And look at the vote. I think it was 47-6, and with all the Democrats voting yes in the Senate.
Is there an art to this political machinations? There's something to be said about the grinding the meat, if you will. I mean, the art of politics is not good to look at, is it? All the time.
No, it's like sausage. You don't want to see it made, but you enjoy eating it. I mean, so that's what, my friend. That's what the political politics is. And you've had your share of the political arena, and it's not something that you wanna do. And like the analogy, you gotta get inside, and a lot of times you have to work out your differences in private, and some people don't like that part of the political process, but from time to time, it's just no way to do it publicly as it relates to, because people get entrenched in their positions, and in order for them to, there has to be some sort of compromise and some sort of deliberative discussion before you can move an issue from one point to another point. So that's the political divide, so to speak.
Very, very quickly, sir. Just three more things, very, very quickly. State budget passed today. $950 million taken out for education, and were Black voters hurt with this new budget?
Well, we just got it. It's we don't know the numbers, and but we've been hearing bits and pieces about it, that it is not, the cuts were not where we thought they would be at 14 to 16%, but they were down to 8 to 10% in some areas, that were restored. So it's hard for me to comment on that when the budget was being passed out when I came to you for this interview. So I haven't had a chance to lay eyes on it, and what I just gave you was something that was given to me on my way out of the door. So that's something that we're gonna have to look at tonight, and we'll be having some meetings in the morning and have a discussion, and so Anytime you have a budget, we had the same thing in 2008, and it's very, very painful. And I have a tendency to not to look at the budget through political eyes. It's the only thing that we are constitutionally mandated to do, and that's to pass a budget. Everything else up here is man-made and woman-made, but that's the only thing that we are constitutionally mandated to do is provide a budget for the state of Georgia. So I take the writing of the budget and the budget deliberations very, very seriously. For I used to be a conferee on the budget when after both the House and Senate passes, 3 people from the House and 3 people from the Senate make the final decisions on the budget. And I served in that capacity for several years, so I've seen the budget up close. So I'd like to reserve comment on that because I have not laid eyes on it, and I just don't know what the contents of it is.
Two national political questions. Bob Johnson, the former founder of BET TV, Black Entertainment Television, said that Democrats and Republicans are just alike, and that there should be a Black Lives Matters political party just for Black folks. Would that even possibly work?
Well, I think that a standalone would be kind of difficult to do that. But I think the Black Lives Matter movement is something that has been incorporated, and I keep in touch with the Black Lives Matters initiatives and try to respond accordingly. And having a standalone party. In my instance, in the environment that we're in today, I just don't know how the apparatus would work in that regards. But there is a delineation between the Democrats and the Republican, in that our tent is much bigger. Our agenda and the items that we believe in are much larger, and I think the party is we're more receptive in the Democratic Party to different ideas and ideology. So with that in mind, I've been a strong component of the Democratic Party of Georgia, and I'm gonna look forward to serving in the Democratic Party of Georgia.
Finally, sir, there's been a new person in the vice presidential candidate list, Congresswoman Karen Bass, the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. Do you have a favorite? Who are you telling Joe Biden should be the next vice president?
I've been a presidential elector in the state of Georgia maybe 8 or 9 times. I'm a presidential elector this time. I've only been able to vote one time, and that was for Bill Clinton in 1992 when he won the state of Georgia. And the only time you get a vote as an elector is that your state have to vote for the presidential candidate. And I'm hoping to be able to cast a ballot as a presidential elector for Joe Biden. And I've been to 10 Democratic conventions. And I've served in a lot of presidential campaigns from Carter all the way to Biden now. And I've always said this, and the more I see it, the more I believe in it. The person that is the nominee should have the right to appoint the person that they think would be the person they want, they trust, and they feel comfortable with. And so I have not weighed in on that with Joe Biden. I've had a chance to talk with him on several occasions. I'm in touch with the senior advisors of the campaign, and I've been interviewed on this subject matter. And I feel very strongly that regardless of who Joe Biden appoints, I'm gonna support him. It could be. I just think that we gotta have the person that the vice president is comfortable with, a person that he believes in, and so I'm leaving that totally up to Joe Biden, and I have not made any comments to the contrary of that statement, and I have never weighed in on a vice presidential selection
Even,
process, and I'm not weighing in on this one.
even though you worked with Stacey Abrams, and although you like Mayor Bottoms, the two Georgians, you haven't put your.
I have not. Well, that tells you right there. You got two Georges, and both of them are capable, and I could live with. I mean, either one of them. They are remarkable people. Both of them are remarkable, And if either one of them are appointed, you can be rest assured, and I would be appreciative of either one of them. And Karen Bass, I mean, she's a dear friend of mine. Karen Bass, when she became Speaker of the California Assembly, I flew to Sacramento for her swearing in. And so Karen Bass and I have been long time friends, and but naturally, I'd be insane to say that I wouldn't want somebody from Georgia. I mean, but the question was weighing in to Joe Biden and philosophically, but let me go on record saying I would be happy with any for Abrams or Bottoms, and I'm just delighted and thrilled that both of them are being considered. It bodes well for the state of Georgia.
Yeah. Representative Smyre, thank you, man. I've long admired you, but this has
Well, I
been a
appreciate
lesson.
that.
Thank you so much for joining us. You're the baddest man in state politics, that's for sure.
No, but I tell you, I've been watching the situation here in Atlanta and across our nation, and our leadership and the mayor and the city of Atlanta. I love the city of Atlanta, and I'm just hoping that, and I'm prayerful that we can get past this moment with the killing there in Atlanta, and it's one of those things that you am prayerful for the family of Mr. Brooks and all the others that surrounding his family, and I pray for our city leadership, the mayor, and everyone involved, and hopefully we can get through this. And now's the time for us to put our arms around one another, and let's get through this. But in all matters, we've got to make corrective changes and make it a better quality of life for everyone, equality for everyone, justice for all. That's how I want to leave this.
Thank you so much, Reverend Smyre.
Thank you.
This has been
Thank you.
Talk to Me. See you next week.